Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff is alongside me. Delighted to have your company on this Wednesday. There's lots of football to talk about. And if you want to join the football family, don't forget, all you have to do is hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. It's uncensored, unbiased, unmatched, and over 7 days. If you download the PLZ Soccer app, you'll get all the breaking football news at your fingertips. And as ever, we're delighted that you watch the show and your comments in the YouTube feed, and of course all the emails that get sent to us too, because quite simply, it's all about engaging with each other. You'll get opinion on this programme. You might not like it at times, but at least you'll get one, and certainly it will not be pandering to any club. Is that fair, Ruffy?
Yeah, I would say that's 100%. I'm saying what we want to talk about is the whole of Scottish football and give an opinion on what's happening in a game.
And we also look at the English game, European Football Champions League especially. Semi-finals tonight, and it's Man City against Real Madrid, nicely poised at 1-1. We'll get the thoughts of Pep Guardiola and Carlo Ancelotti shortly, but with Champions League in mind, talking of Pep Guardiola, what about the quiz question? And here it is. Give us your thoughts. When was the last time Pep Guardiola celebrated a Champions League final win? If you think you know the answer, put it in the feed and we'll give you the correct answer at the end of the programme. So, there's the quiz question. Lots to talk about, including that Champions League semi-final. Matters closer to home. Callum Davidson, the move to Dundee is off. He rejected the Dens Park club right at the 11th hour. It had been thought that there was going to be an announcement later today, but the deal has collapsed after he decided he didn't want the job and he rejected it this morning, Ruffy. So something must have been in the back of his head that didn't actually sit well.
Yeah, well, automatically when the boy Weir left, you have to say you've just won the championship, you'd be looking forward to next year, but he had thrown it out there to the owners that he would need an investment to keep the club in the Premier League. He needed money, and obviously the discussions there fell down, and that's why he left, you know. So I would expect Callum Davidson went into that meeting again, asked the same questions and got the same answers, and didn't like what he was hearing. You know, obviously all clubs are got a lower budget than what they usually have, but no, it'd be interesting to see what Callum thought about the whole thing, but I'm just reading between the lines. If your manager leaves on a high, you know, there is obviously something happened behind the scenes.
Yeah, doesn't really fill the fans full of confidence, surely.
No, it doesn't. I think somebody would have to come out with a statement, the owner or John Elms, you know, just to let them know where they are, you know. But no, it's worrying times, I think, up in Dundee, because it must be something to do with the financial situation of the club.
And I hate to say it, Ruffy, I hate to be a killjoy about it all, but I hate the possibility of Dundee coming up and United going down the other way.
No, we spoke about it in the show on numerous occasions that the Premier League and Scotland need derbies. They need the big games, they need Dundee, they need Rangers and Celtic, they need Hibs and Hearts, and whatever derby you think Aberdeen are playing in, you know, you need them in as well. So no, it's going to be an absolute blow, but we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out.
Yeah, I know we usually get pelters, Ruffy, if we do wear shorts, but it was such a lovely day today, and I had a wee game of six-a-sides out at the park with a few of the old ex-pros. We had a good laugh. It's been a long while, as you know, and I just thought I'll just keep the shorts on.
Yeah, and as long as the hip sort of held up, you know, that's the main thing. You know, you've got to take it easy. You know, and because there's a lot of hard tacklers out there, you took a chance.
Yep, absolutely. It's getting better. I can feel the fitness coming back, although not to the level where obviously I would ever be beaten by my wife at bowls, but it almost happened for yourself.
No, it did. I had a match today. It was cancelled. The boy couldn't make it, so Maggie said, well, why don't we get in and have a wee friendly? But yeah, as you can imagine, you know, it never turned out friendly. No. You know, it turned out very competitive. When she was winning 10-7 with 2 ends to go, it was beginning to worry me.
Yeah.
But competitiveness came through.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that old World Cup.
That old. You know, beat me. It's just about to happen.
If I was Maggie and she managed to do it, I'd have had it on every social media. Anyway, we thank you for tuning into the programme, and your support has been phenomenal. Our figures are magnificent, consuming not only the breaking news stories, but of course our manager and player interviews and our special one-to-ones, lots of different features that we're putting out there. So thank you for your support. support with us. We really do appreciate that. And Hugh Scott with a nice little message. He says, how did your dinner go with Murdo MacLeod last night, guys? Well, Hugh, I must admit, it filled me full of confidence because it was great to see Murdo. He was in great form. He's had a really, really tough time. His story's been well documented in the papers. And of course, when you bounce back from that after such a long time, you're in that hospital for a long time, and he's a battler, Murdo. I've known him for such a long time, and I count him as one of my friends, and it was great seeing him and getting a bit of camaraderie and banter with him.
Yeah, it certainly was, and lots of great stories, as you can imagine, from everybody there, for Murdo, for Hugh, or both Hughs, that talking about football and the times, but you're right, I think the good thing about it is everything that had happened to him, he was still very, very positive. And I think that was a good thing, we were all sitting there listening to the stories of what had happened to him and what he had went through, and we were all shocked, that what he had to put up with, but he's through it, and he's all he's doing is talking about positive, how he's going to get back walking again properly, how he's going to start playing golf. So that's great. He's focused and where he's going to go, and I think that's the good thing about the whole thing.
Yeah, and quite a lot of people asking, where's Tam? Is he still in Portugal or somewhere golfing? Obviously, everybody needs a wee break now and then. We were actually going to show you the photograph. Tam actually posted a photograph just showing us the round of golf, and it's good to know that he's out golfing with the Tiger King. Yes, and Billy Bob Thornton from Salt Lake City in West Virginia. Ruffy, I mean the guys that he was with the long mullets who look as if they should be in some kind of redneck movie.
When I saw the Facebook, obviously it was small, and my sight was a wee bit bad. So I enlarged.
Did you?
I went, wow!
If those two guys are not called Billy Bob, I will be amazed. By the way, the people he hangs about with are unbelievable. Anyway. He's enjoying himself. And thank you to so many people who, nice touch talking about Murdo MacLeod, we really appreciate that. So from Callum Davidson and the deal that didn't eventually materialise, Ruffy, there's so much to talk about football wise, especially looking forward to the weekend. What about Peter Haring? Wins the red card, that appeal against the sending off against St Mirren. So in the end, the referee, I heard Stuart Dougal talking about it, he thought the ref was rash early, made the decision quickly, when maybe a look again at it might have brought out about a different decision, might have given Hearts a better foothold in the game with 11 men in the park.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I would do would be to have another look at it, because when you saw it initially you went, wow, that's a meaty challenge, and the boy did go up in the air pretty high, and he come down with a thud. So if you're a referee just looking at that first off, you went, that's a red card. But I don't know why they didn't have a look at it. I don't know why the guy, that's the thing we're talking about. I don't know why the guy up in the VAR told the referee to have another look at it. That's one of the things that I think that the failings is. Doesn't seem to be the right communication between the referee and the VAR sometimes.
Yeah, and if you get it wrong, it's too late for the manager. He's got to, Stevie Naismith has to put up with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people are talking about the rules there as well, that if somebody like that, gets sent off, and I don't know what you do, you can't get the points back, you can't get the player back, so on the day you're the one that's suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us your thoughts on that as well. We're looking for consistency in the decision. Maybe even some decisions should be quickly, recognised as something that you have to have a look at with VAR, and then hopefully get it quickly into a quick decision. Or, as Howard Webb pointed out, that's coming to English football up here, we'll start to hear the dialogue between VAR and the match officials. That could be interesting as well as the game moves on. My God, it's changed dramatically, hasn't it, Ruffy?
Yeah, I think we all thought it was going to be for the best, but the handball one in particular is the one that's everybody, the referee. If you ask the managers and the clubs, they're the ones that just stand at the side shaking their head, because obviously they see a different handball every week, and none of them's the same. and they don't know where they are, and it's costing them dearly. It's cost some of them their job, and it could cost some more of them the job before the end of the season if there's any more in the crucial games that are coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Ange Postecoglou, obviously after winning Manager of the Year, is talking about, the next couple of days, once they get the last few games out of the way, what his signing plans and strategy will be for the summer, because everybody's been talking about all the other clubs, what they're going to do. Rangers, and Michael Beale already mentioned the last couple of weeks about it might be about 12 players that he's looking to turn around in that first team squad. So Ange Postecoglou, with a title-winning side, also has ambitions, also wants to bring in players of a higher calibre again, and this is what he had to say on this situation. I think it's fair to say we're in the second year and things are embedded. That includes the core playing group, but that also gives you the opportunity to grow as a team. Part of that challenge will be more success you have, more likely it will be that some of your players will move on. We have to be ready to fill these gaps with players who have the ability to take us to another level altogether. In every window we've had so far since I've been here, we have come out stronger in terms of that squad depth, or just having a better quality of player than we had going in, and that is what we'll try and do. And I would suggest to you, Ruffy, if that doesn't put the fear of God into everybody, nothing will, because this is a team that, okay, I look at them and I'm not taking anything away from the Rangers game, because I thought Rangers deserved that wholeheartedly. But I think over the last couple of months, they just looked as if, they look tired.
Yeah.
And he'll want to revitalise that squad. And again, when you hear him talking about a higher calibre of player, that's because he knows that the real critique will come trying to gauge what they're doing in the Champions League group stages.
Yeah, I would think the lesson was learned last year in the Champions League, that some of the players just weren't up for it. Yeah, there were games that they should have won, but it's good if you're a Celtic supporter and he's saying to yourself, right, there's quality out there and we're going to go for it. And it's a different quality. I'm not saying that the quality that Rangers are going for, they're going for guys who are out of contract. I'm not saying that doesn't mean they're bad players, but they're looking at a different level. They're looking at somebody at 4 million, 5 million, whatever, so we'll just have to sit here and wait to see who he's going to identify, and what kind of player he's going to go in. It's interesting he thinks that there are some players going to leave. I'm just sitting thinking, is that a badder? Has he indicated he wants to go? Is that?
No, he's come out in the last week and said everybody's speculated, but I'm happy here.
Yeah, so who is he talking about? Hatate? He must have a vibe of somebody has inquired. Doesn't mean they're going to leave, but I'm sure somebody has inquired about some of his players. But
are you talking about the players that have stepped up to the plate, who are prominent players? You think there's going to be a biggie moving out?
Well, yeah, I think he's indicated that the players are going to move out. We don't know who they are, but behind the scenes there could be a telephone call for somebody saying, look, how much for him? And if he thinks that's a good deal and he can replace that person with equal quality, because anybody he's brought in, I can't think of many failures that he's brought in. So,
do you want me to go through some of them?
The failures?
No, not the failures, no, just some people who might have a decision to make, right, okay, and some that I think are feasible, right, in moving on. We've already discussed with Rangers quite a number of players, Kent, Morelos, and then, Helander not going to be there, Tillman, big 50-50 on whether he stays or not. So we've gone through the Rangers camp in detail and talked about the fact that if the manager says he needs 12, then you've got to take him at his word. Scott Bain happy to sit as second goalkeeper, third goalkeeper?
Third, he's third.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely third, yeah. He doesn't seem to be. I don't think they need another goalkeeper at all.
Siegrist
has been fantastic with Dundee United. He hasn't been given a chance. Joe Hart has been there all the time. It's interesting. I'm hearing a lot of Celtic supporters not 100% about Joe Hart.
Yeah.
A lot of them are maybe iffy a wee bit. Maybe he's getting on a wee bit. Maybe he's not as mobile as what he was. So, but I don't think at this immediate stage is they need a number one.
I think he's better than what they could afford. Do you understand that statement?
Yeah, I agree with that. But I was just surprised when I heard some Celtic supporters saying, well, yeah, he makes some good, fantastic saves and that, but in the last 2 or 3 months there's been a lot of judgment errors, judgments of
Bernabé
Bernabei has done nothing for me, and done nothing at all,
The other one that I think Stephen Welsh will want to play regular football.
Yeah.
I think he might want to move on and get himself regular. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Scott Robertson, I haven't seen that much of. I'm looking at the squad here. James McCarthy is undoubtedly going to. He's got to look for somewhere to play out the remaining years of his career. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I mean, I know this is out of left field, but I've constantly been looking at it, and I'm a big fan of James Forrest. I think there are some Celtic fans who are critical of him, but if you look at James Forrest's contribution to Celtic, and you look at the big goals he scored in big games, James Forrest is a player, whether he's now back from injury, he can play himself into the manager's thoughts for next season. Who knows? We don't know what type of player he's going to sign, whether James fully fit is suddenly part of his plans again, but I still think James has got a huge contribution. Whether it's at Celtic or not, who knows? Other than that, Ruffy, I mean, Abad has already said, what he's going to say, and I think the rest of them seem happy. They don't strike me, O's got something to go on. Maeda wants to kick on again. They've got Champions League football. It's the ultimate test this time after an impressive, but it was the Champions League campaign was a failure.
Oh, it was a disaster.
It wasn't a disaster, Ruffy. It was a failure because they didn't win the games, but the Celtic fans enjoyed the football they were playing.
They enjoyed it. When I saw the group coming out, I went, this is a qualifying group.
Yeah.
I definitely thought, they had the big one in there, but they didn't have two big teams. The other two were beatable, and Celtic proved they were beatable, particularly the away game. I think we all thought they should have won that. So at the end of the day, the points tally was poor, but the entertainment value was fantastic. Yeah. I think Celtic
should have won in Donetsk.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That game there, So you're right in what you're saying. The Celtic supporters who travelled and watched their team, or even at home, they got a shift. They got a team trying to win the game. They never ever in any of the games sat in and said, right, we're going to see how this goes. They went for it and tried to win every game, which is good to watch.
Yeah, best game, I must admit, best game I had witnessed last season was the Real Madrid game at Celtic Park.
Yeah, well, you think back at that game, obviously Callum McGregor hitting the shot, hits the post, comes out, the other chance after that ball.
Maeda, 5 yards out, got a score.
And then at the end of the day, whether it was tiredness or whatever, Real Madrid, just as they do, have the quality just to cut you open. And that's what they did.
Okay, that's Celtic. As ever, there's always movement everywhere now, and Rangers are clearing out a lot of people, and they're looking for a sporting director. Craig Moore, interested in it. Craig has been, a great lad who's got experience back home in Australia. He's got great connections, and I think, he's mentioned that he's interested in returning to Ibrox as sporting director. I mean, if he comes back, I think a lot of Rangers fans would be happy with that. I've watched his career with great interest in what he's done after Rangers. He's done a bit of media work as well, but a lot of coaching and a lot of good connections, Craig.
Well, there has been a massive influx of people from Australia and Asia as well, and if he's been over there for so long, obviously he, like Ange, would be able to identify the players who standing out more than others at these particular teams over there.
Yeah.
We don't see that kind of football here, so he's in the know. It depends whether that's the area that Rangers can target in for the price range and the players come in, because Ange has already went on record to say, well, you're not tapping into my market because I've got first shout in anything that's coming out of Japan.
Yeah, I don't think.
He actually did say it. He said, if there's anybody there, I'll be getting a shout before you getting it.
Yeah,
because I'll get the contacts before you had them. No, but I don't mean Rangers.
Yeah,
I just mean anybody. Yeah. Who's going to tap into that,
Well, if that is the case, the Celtic fans will be happy with it. But as far as Rangers are concerned, there is, and by the way, you know what it's like, Ruffy. A couple of people sent me a text this morning, and I couldn't stop laughing because sometimes on social media now you get what we call the absolute classic noise ups and wind ups just to see if anybody will bite. And the amount of people on social media talking about and throwing out things like Graeme Souness coming back to Rangers with huge investment, I think it's been kind of a thrown about there to see if they'll all bite on it. I don't see Graeme coming back to Rangers in any capacity.
Not now, but I think 3 or 4 years ago there was a pal of his.
Yeah. Brian Kennedy.
Brian Kennedy had muted he wanted to get involved, and obviously with Graeme's name behind that, he would come in with him. But I think at this stage, when you see Graeme retiring for Sky Sports, you know, I think this is time in his life where he's wanting a quiet time.
Yeah.
You know, he's wanting to enjoy himself. Obviously, that wee health scare a few years ago as well. So I think it's maybe time for him to enjoy his family and travel about a bit. But I wouldn't think he would want to get involved with something 24 hours a day again. Yeah.
It's funny actually when we're talking about things, David Darcy says Joe Hart has never let us down. I'm happy with him for at least another season. Gregor, who's a big Aberdeen fan, questioning Souness. I mean, we're not saying that there's anything to it, we're just saying I'm giving you the insight into all the mad gossip that flies around with these things. Although the great thing about it, Ruffy, and I remember it well, is when he did arrive, boy, there was, Scottish football, it really was like an earthquake, wasn't it? You know, when he arrived, I mean, he really actually totally and utterly galvanised Rangers from what they were. I mean, they were a mediocre side at the start of the 80s.
Yeah.
Aberdeen and Dundee United were the force. Celtic were picking up titles. Rangers were way off it, and he suddenly came in and transformed them. It helped, I have to add, that there was a ban on English football in Europe.
Yeah, I'll never forget the day in Mexico. We were sharing with the Scotland team for the World Cup. We were sharing our rooms were next door to each other. And it was an afternoon, we had the day off, and I was sitting outside and we were just having a beer. And I said to him, "What are you going to be doing when you go back to Rangers? What's your plans?" He says, "Well, first thing is I'm going to bring up Chris Woods, Terry Butcher, Gregor Stevens." And I'm sitting there, I'm going, "What?"
Yeah.
That's the players. I said, "You've got Colin McAdam and Cammy Fraser and a couple of really experienced Scottish players."
Yeah.
No, that's what's happening. You know, I'm going to get a spinier team.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've just touched on it there. The English are banned for playing. So they're my goalkeeper, centre half, centre forward. I can't remember the centre forward they mentioned, but that Stevens and all them, and he was going to build and Butch Wilkins. He mentioned him.
Yeah.
We know the now, but time, and I'm sitting there going, "Wow."
He's going to shake up Scottish football.
And the other way he shook up Scottish football was the finances, because by bringing all these players up from England, obviously, and bigger wages than what the other boys were on, Celtic kicked on for that. Remember the Celtic players saying to me, "We were on this,"
and then they got it.
When he came, we had to have the equivalent range. So their wages all went up.
Yeah.
So if their wages all went up, I'm sure Aberdeen and Hibs and Hearts and everything, there became a realistic wage structure that because Graeme came and gave all these boys on it, everybody else got a feel for it.
Yeah, two things that stick in my mind, Ruffy. One, you were at the heart of, his, I think it was his first big game. Was it Easter Road, was it not? And when he got sent off, mm-hmm. I mean, all hell let loose that day.
Yeah, they certainly did. And I remember after the game, and obviously everyone went upstairs at Hibs. We had a wee players' lounge, and I went up there, and Graeme was at the bar with Terry Butcher, and I went in and I went, "Well, what about that?" They went, "Well, what's the problem?" It was as if it was nothing, It was as if it was nothing at all that happened, and I went, "Oh my God, what are we going to be in for?"
Yeah. A second point, I think, and to his eternal credit, some people don't like it, but to his credit, he was a man of his word when he said he was going to sign a Catholic for Rangers, and Mo Johnston duly arrived. Yep. Which was a very brave thing to do, and I think he still deserves credit for that.
Oh, most definitely.
And by the way, we're not talking about 100 years ago. We're talking 1989. It's like.
No, I'm talking. I know a lot of Rangers fans weren't happy with the whole situation. I'd like to think the majority of them got their head round that he'd bought a quality player.
Yeah.
He bought a player who was going to score goals for Rangers, which he did do. and he was going to help them win things. So I think the be all and end all, that was the most important thing as far as Graeme was concerned.
Yeah, some people liked him, some people didn't. He was very much Marmite Graeme Souness for some people, arrogant. He may well have been a wonderful footballer in my view for Liverpool. I thought he was a fantastic footballer. Some people thought there's two sides to looking at arrogant people. If you're arrogant, you can back it up. On the park, he could do it, Ruffy.
Walk, didn't he? He had that, and I think it was the moustache that made him fearless. I think that moustache was.
You think so?
Right, was a dangerous moustache. It was very aggressive.
It reminded me of Boys from the Black Stuff every time I could see him. Do you remember that Willie Russell play? He's a job. Yeah. Not exactly great times socially for everybody, but nevertheless, he said. Another thing about it, I think a lot of people accuse him of is being a checkbook manager. You know, he was able to buy at a time when nobody else could compete with him. I mean, Fergie had left, he came in, Celtic certainly couldn't compete with him. Aberdeen hung on their tails for long enough in the 9 in a row.
Yeah, but you think, I mean, you probably go through a list of the players. I've only touched on some of them, you know, but I think you could probably add a right few after that.
Yeah.
I mean, really top international players that he brought to the club.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, nice to look back on that. Just on players that could be going out, we mentioned Ryan Kent. A report that he could be on his way to Fenerbahce. He's 26, there's a pre-contract in the offing. And it looks as if he is going to sign for somebody, Ruffy, because he's out of contract, he'll get a nice little tidy signing on fee for himself, and there's reports that he could be earning anything up to 30 grand. Now, my overall analysis of Ryan Kent is all the hype failed to materialise.
Yeah, my immediate memory is we've signed a £7 million player who's going to be a £15 million player.
Yeah,
that was the hype. I have to say, I liked him. You know, when he was on form, I think he was one of these exciting players that we don't have enough of. On his game, he could lift you, you know, and he's one of these games that you just waited till he got the ball because you knew something special was going to happen. Unfortunately, that special thing never happened enough for me, and I don't know if the Rangers supporters would agree with that. You know, he certainly did chip in with some exciting moments, but he never got to the heady heights of £15 million. But so at this moment in time, you know, I think if he gets a good move, I don't know if Turkey would be a place that I would want to go for. I think if you ask Callum McGregor, you know, they don't sort of treat you as well as what you do over here. You know, sometimes you can just be baggage if they don't fancy you. But if you want to take the chance and go there and you get weighed in and you enjoy the lifestyle, why not? Yeah, absolutely. Good point by Gregor, who says, Boys from the Black Stuff, Alan Bleasdale. I think Willie Russell was Blood Brothers, the musical. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Yeah, I did see that, yeah.
Did you like it?
I did. I thought it was quite emotional. Some bits. I can't remember the main character, was it, when I seen it? I think it was a girl.
I'll tell you who it was.
Was it Colleen? Was it?
Oh, was it Linda Nolan for you?
It was Linda Nolan.
Yeah, mine was, I think it might have been Barbara Dixon or Kiki D, and the male lead was played by a guy who's a very good actor at the time called Con O'Neill. What about that for a shout, Ruffy? You've got to hand it to me. Yeah,
that's a few years before I saw it.
Do you know what the main song in it was? No? Tell Me It's Not True. Do you not remember that?
Yeah, that's Barbara Dixon's song.
Barbara Dixon, yeah.
Dixon's song.
Yeah. Okay, there you are. See how we kind of just duck and dive, Ruffy, on all these things? It's good going. Kent, I'll tell you one thing. The biggest problem is, regardless of what that boy does, Rangers have to find somebody else like... I think, I was going to say like that, but certainly I think a Ryan Kent style player, but with an end product.
Well, I saw a wee bit in Cantwell in him.
He's a different player.
I know, but Cantwell had something going forward. I think he was more direct than Kent. I mean, Kent had that wee bag of tricks and a wee step over and everything, but I think Cantwell on his game would be more, what's the word I'm looking for, more proactive in going forward.
Yeah.
You know, where Kent would be out wide and he'd do a wee step over and then he'd be
cut inside and then blast it over the bar.
Exactly. Yeah. I think Cantwell...
Well, Cantwell goes forward.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, midfielders who actually can lift their head and go that way is a good midfielder.
Well, let me say that they're not the same style of player, but I would say Cantwell could give you that wee lift that Ryan Kent could give you. That wee bit of excitement, that wee, what's he going to do?
Yeah.
What's he going to do when he gets the ball? He had a wee flick at the weekend.
I wasn't excited by Ryan Kent.
I think on his game, I thought, yeah. I thought on his game.
No, I like Cantwell. I think Cantwell's going to be a star for Rangers next season. You know, there's a bit about him. Scored a brilliant goal. It was very. People think, oh, that's easy to do. That ball was just on the rise, and he's got his head over it, and he's just belted it on the rebound, bang, into the back of the net. So I think he'll be okay. It's just supplementing him with people who can put a supply line in. Cantwell can pick them out with passes, but you need somebody who. Now for me, Kent just didn't live up to the hype. So. They've got to try and find someone else on that one. Listen, there's lots of games that we can look forward to at the weekend. You can give us your thoughts as well, because there are some great games, and of course there's lots of playoffs to look forward to as well, Ruffy, which I think everybody is looking forward to because there's so much at stake. We will indeed discuss the Champions League semi-final tonight. And also we'll discuss Ayr United against Hamilton Accies. Just a quick word about Livingston, because David Martindale has revealed a £200,000 budget cut after they missed out on the top six. So we sent our reporter out there to find out what the latest news was from Livy.
Thanks, Peter. I'm at the Tony Macaroni Arena to speak to David Martindale this morning, but not really about the game at the weekend. Everything we've been talking about is about VAR this morning, and no, not for the usual negativity surrounding it, but actually how VAR can improve. There's been a lot of chat on social media this week surrounding the English Premier League and the Monday Night Football programme between Leicester and Liverpool, where Howard Webb made a guest appearance on Sky Sports. He was there with Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville, drawing crosshairs to explain offside decisions, as well as releasing audio tapes from goals that were given in previous matches to allow viewers to listen to the conversations between the video assistant referee and the on-field referee. Now, David Martindale has of course seen these clips, and it's something he would love to see brought into Scotland.
I think it's time that we get to hear what the officials are talking about. Well, why not? I don't think any officials go out to make any mistakes. They're using the technology at their hands. So I think it would be beneficial for the game. It would probably cut a lot of the background noise out. And for me, it's they're using the technology. So I personally would enjoy that side of it. And I think if I take my management hat off and I'm a football fan, I think it adds to the entertainment of the sport. Would you agree with that one? So as a football fan sitting on your couch, getting to hear the commentary and listening and see what they're doing, I think it would add to the entertainment value of the game.
Livingston don't really have anything to play for in their final 3 matches, so we're speaking to manager David Martindale about his preparations for next season and the challenges that face him with some budget cuts.
Missed out on probably 2-3 players for the Scottish champ that we'd earmarked. Financially, it's going to be a difficult challenge next year. I need to cut the budget around £200,000, so it's going to make it even more challenging. So having the lowest budget in the league to lose another £200 is going to make it extremely challenging.
I'll tell you one thing, Ruffy, that just shows you, those fine lines, those fine margins of having the big games in the top 6, and if you miss out on it, suddenly, the board come in and say, well, we need to change the figures.
Yeah, that shows you how important it is to be in that top 6, but he's not the only one that's going to be having that same problem. There'll be other teams in there facing the same problem. If he's identifying championship players just now, he knows where his budget's going to be, and if you're going into the championship, there are players in the championship, I've seen them, who could hold their own in the Premiership, so you have to be very lucky to pick the right ones. But if that's the ones that he's looking at, then it just shows you, that the money in the game, they're all suffering now. It'll be interesting at the end, all the teams that start posting losses, because a lot of them are struggling.
Couple at Thistle as well, isn't there?
It's a couple of what?
A couple of good players at Thistle.
Yeah, certainly is. I like Ross Docherty. I think he could handle himself quite well. I think people might look at Brian Graham. I know he's getting on a wee bit. I don't know if Brian's coming to the end of his contract or no. I think the fullback we got from Cove, Milan, definitely, once he's a year of full time under his belt. I'm not saying these players should leave, I want them to stay, but I'm talking about that kind of calibre of player that would go into a Premiership team quite easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Partick Thistle, the manager and Brian Graham were talking today ahead of that huge match on Friday. Certainly looking forward to it. Partick Thistle against Ayr United.
This Friday night, Partick Thistle take on Ayr United in the playoffs, and striker Brian Graham has now scored 50 goals in 114 games, and the striker feels his side have something to prove on their quest to the Premiership.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a growing anger within. They want to go prove people wrong. I think we did that on the 1-day win. They want to go one better, get to the Premier League and shove two fingers up at everybody that shafted us.
The Jags boss Chris Doolan has kept the confidence of the squad high, who are unbeaten since March, and despite the hurdles in place for the Championship side, the Jags boss feels his side can rise above it.
I think I said after the game that everybody always goes on that nobody for the fourth place is going up. Somebody has to do it. At some point, somebody needs to win it or go through it. You have to set records at some point and break records at some point. Why not be us? But I feel as if coming into this, that positivity is hard to break. That's a hard thing to break down for any team. And that's why I feel as if we have the energy, we have the quality as well, and the squad, because it's a really good squad here. Ian McCall built a fantastic squad at this football club, and it's about keeping that squad together, making sure we're as fit and as healthy as we can, and we approach every game as positively as we possibly can.
It's the first leg of the playoffs between Partick Thistle and Ayr United, taking place here at Firhill Stadium. Kick-off is at 7:45.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, realistically, Ruffy, that's what I like about Partick Thistle. The players can say what they feel. I just want to, stick two fingers up and everyone is shafted us. There's a classic quote that's a back page headline.
Yeah, and Brian needs to let it go. Ever since the day one, he has been irked by the whole thing and really hurt by it as well, because the consequences of what happened were the wages, and people lost their job and everything, and somebody like Brian, who's been in the game long enough, it really affected him quite badly. Anytime I spoke to him, he was hurt by the whole situation. And, it was a horrible thing for everybody at the time, but quite rightly so. I think he's quite right in going, there's a few people we want to prove wrong, but that's the motivation that Brian uses, but the thing about that interview, I was glad Chris said something about Ian McCall, because Ian McCall's got a lot to do with what's happening now, and he mentioned the pool there, he mentioned the squad of players that he's got, and that was because of Ian McCall. Ian McCall came into the board at the beginning of the season, said, look guys, we've got a good chance of getting promotion, my best 11 on the park is superb, but I need you to push the budget out for the bench. And what the board did was they pushed it out and they went for everything they wanted, and I would safely say that we have the best squad in that division. We always talk about the 11 on the park, but see the players that we've got on the bench coming on the park, they're like Celtic. They affect the game. And that's been the positive thing. So well done to Chris for mentioning that, because it was a thing Ian believed that was going to be the be all and end all for them getting out of that division.
Do you think he's the type of boy that should be applying for the Dundee job?
Who?
Ian McCall?
Yeah, I think Ian did well at Dundee United. I think he's got a good CV. He's got a good CV of identifying young players like Shankland and Ross McCrorie, who I've mentioned. He's brought another players in. Believe it or not, he brought Charlie Riley to Partick Thistle 3 years ago.
What happened?
He came into the board and he said, look, I know this boy Charlie Riley, I think he's been a bit wayward, he's a bit all over the place, I think we should push the boy out, give him a year's contract, and we gave him a year's contract, and because the team were playing particularly well, he never get enough of a chance. He maybe get 1 or 2 games pre-season or something like that, and then the team got promoted at the division, so he wasn't getting game time, so unfortunately at that particular time he was surplus, but at least Ian saw something in him.
And he signed a pre-contract with Dundee, so he's Oscar.
Did he admit that on the night?
No,
when you asked him, I don't think he really.
He didn't. He didn't know that I knew.
No,
and I think he thought, wait a minute here, this is out there for everybody.
I think another interview he tried to deny it a wee bit.
Yeah, but it was out there.
Yeah, well.
So I think he was trying to be respectful, the boy, to his teammates, because there's a big game for Albion Rovers against Spartans.
I mean, it must be a new record that a player from the lowest division has been nominated for the Player of the Year.
I know, it's absolutely, it's not outrageous, it's brilliant for the boy.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and Dundee, fair enough.
Other players that could
manager picked him.
Say that again?
Which manager do you think took him to Dundee?
Well, if it was Gary Boyer, no luck. It's one of those things. It's you go in there and there's a new manager and hopefully he fancies him. Listen, I had a look at most of the goals that he'd scored for Albion Rovers, Ruffy, he's a player.
Yeah.
So he's getting his chance and he's grasping it. Good luck to him. Well done, Charlie. Bristol City to confirm £2 million deal for Aberdeen's Ross McCrorie. So he'll move on. There'll be add-ons. Aberdeen might get that. Rangers might get a wee cut of that fee as well. He's 25. Now, he's played right wing back, right back, centre back, and in midfield. Good luck to Ross McCrorie. But I think Aberdeen's uncertainty and at times, I don't know what their strategy was, but Ross McCrorie was never a centre half. No. And I don't even like him at right back. I actually think he's a better holding midfielder.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with that. But unfortunately for Aberdeen, they were struggling at the back and they thought he could fill a gap.
Yeah, but it's not for 2 or 3 games. He filled it for a gap, and the gap wasn't the centre of defence.
No, and it suffered him. It stopped his progression in the game, I think, because everybody was seeing him as a centre half, you know, and it wasn't the case. And again, we're talking about the finances at clubs. It just shows you Aberdeen showing a loss of £5 million. They need to recoup, and that's why they're selling their best players.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you one thing, Ruffy. If you to read out most of the comments on the feed here, you know, people are not happy at times. It doesn't matter, and that's the joy of it all. Everybody's got an opinion on it. Willie says McCrorie has been a waste up until now. I don't think he's been a waste, but certainly I think his talent has been misused in such a way that I think putting him at centre half, he doesn't even think like a centre half, Ruffy. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, the centre half obviously is a different.
There's a positional sense. There's a knowledge of where the ball's coming. You know, he doesn't think like that.
You have to be. You don't all of a sudden become a centre half. They've been a centre half through your younger years, or you know, and then you move into the reserves and you play there, and you know how to read the game, and you know how to communicate with the back 4 or the back 5.
Who's the best in Scotland in the last 40 years who was a striker who ended up moving?
Willie Miller.
Willie Miller.
I know.
I mean, honestly, he's just majestic.
Yeah, he just strolled through the games, Willie. You know, I think. In the winter, if everybody was running about and they come in after the game and their strips and their shorts would be manky, Willie's wouldn't be.
No.
You know, he would just stroll a bit.
Don't need to get it washed either, you know. Annan 3, Clyde 1 from last night. It's a big step for Annan. Is this Clyde's dream gone?
No, it was a late goal, obviously. They'll still believe that they can get something out of that game. It's an absolute shocker for Clyde. When you think... years gone by, Clyde weren't a massive club or anything like that, but they're a stable club. But since then, you know, obviously the ground's been taken away from them, and it's been up in turmoil. You know what's happening behind the scenes and ownership and all that carry on. So another drop in a division is another downward spiral for me. Yeah.
What about tonight, Ruffy? Ayr United against Hamilton Accies. I mean, I love John Rankin. You know. I think John is a brilliant boy. I won't say great lad because I know people cane me for it. But I just think Airdrieonians will take them.
Airdrieonians are scoring goals for fun, and they've got lots of goal scorers in there. We all talk about momentum getting into a game. Airdrie certainly have that. I know Hamilton picked themselves off the ropes at the weekend. They were 2-0 down. I think they were very fortunate that Alloa got a player sent off, because that was turning nasty, as we all read in the newspaper. The fans weren't happy. John was getting a bit of stick from the dugout, which he didn't like, and quite rightly so. But then obviously they started scoring goals, and the fans got behind the team, you know, and I think that's the most important thing. This has been an interesting one to keep our eyes on, because Airdrie are absolutely flying.
I thought it was a good point by Alan Maitland, Zaki's chairman. He just slammed the fans for their vile abuse, which was aimed not only at John Rankin and the directors during that, when the game wasn't going according to plan. Maitland said it was a hate crime, and he said they would be banned from Douglas Park in a rather lengthy statement. I applaud him for it, because, do you know, Ruffy, and some people actually, you know, will come up to me and we'll laugh about it. Tam laughs about it on here when I absolutely leather anyone who's abusive on our feed. But if the decent people, who are the majority, don't speak up, you allow the minority to consistently dominate a platform and they also dominate the narrative as well. And everybody then, not everybody, but people think, oh, this is the norm, you can get away with it. And if you set a level of abuse, it just goes on and increases. And if you don't nip it in the bud, and I think he was right to say, don't come and support Hamilton Accies, we don't want you. I think you'd rather have 700 decent fans than 1,200 and 500 of them are morons.
Yeah, I actually witnessed it myself at Hamilton Accies when I was at Partick Thistle. We played Hamilton Accies, and I think it was a Friday night game, and I think we beat Hamilton Accies 6-1 that night.
Yeah, we were there.
We were there, and the whole, not the whole stand, the majority of the stand turned on the board of directors, and it was for where I was sitting, it was quite scary.
Yeah.
Because there was no stewards, there was no police or anything to monitor it or anything, and it was just so vile, foul, abusive. And as you say, there's a right way to do things, and it's not during the game, because it doesn't help the players on the park one iota. And you would like to think that the majority of fans wouldn't have reacted that way.
Yeah. This is the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, and thank you very much to so many of you who've been downloading the podcast as well of the show. If you can watch it, some people like to listen to it, and over and above that, you can download all our unique content. It's not just the Football Show on PLZ Soccer. There's breaking football news. The website has up-to-date breaking football news across the UK, Europe and globally as well, and you get it all at your fingertips on PLZ Soccer's app. So there's so much content on there that hopefully you'll enjoy. It's getting bigger and better, and certainly our brand is known right across the SPFL, Ruffy, in Scotland.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I think anybody who watches the show, listens to the show, will see the variety of people that we have in. And it's not just this year we've done that. We've been doing it before we started. I think we're the only people who do cover every division, and the people we have on the show are from every different division. We don't really focus on the big two all the time. We give everybody a fair shout.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's some who would disagree with you on that, Ruffy, but the big two tend to dominate some of the headlines, to be perfectly honest with you, but we do try and cover as many of the teams as possible and give them a fair crack of the whip. I think that's quite simply because, I think I lived in Edinburgh for 12 years, Ruffy, and sampled, the obsession with Celtic and Rangers.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it that I think every city has the Rangers and Celtic environment, and I would include Dundee in that. The banter that goes on there, and the winning and losing, they want to be kingpin over the other, and I'm sure that's it is the same through in Easter Road as well, and Gorgie. So yeah, I mean, everybody's passionate about the game. That's why we want to see all the derbies happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Caroline Weir has won the Football Writers International Women's Player of the Year. She's playing for Real Madrid, Ruffy. She's a star at international level, and it's the second season in a row she's picked up the award. 98 Scotland caps and 16 goals for her country. But to play for Real Madrid, I mean, this is at the absolute top end, where Caroline, like many others who can play at the top end, have a good financial reward, and they will be able to, live a very, very comfortable lifestyle, which is an indication of where women's football is going.
Yeah, and I think every young girl looking at her and what she's done in the game, that will be the target, progression through club level, playing for your country. Possibly the next level would be down in England, getting more awareness down there, and then getting your move abroad. And she's been fantastic. I think I was reading that she's only so many goals behind the girl over there that won the Ballon d'Or.
The Barcelona girl.
Aye, yeah. So she scored, I think, just short of the same amount of goals that she's. Barcelona are obviously the top team over there just now, but yeah, she's scored just about as many goals as her.
Yeah, and of course, when you think about it, I mentioned to Rose Riley. If you think about Rose Riley, she could have been she would have been an icon nowadays in Scottish football. And of course, I did mention to one of our former employees, Leanne Crichton, that she would have been a millionaire as well if she was just starting out now. She did laugh, Ruffy, but she doesn't have that that envy. I think she's got a career path, Leanne, that she wants to follow, and good luck to her. She was a brilliant signing for us.
Yeah, I think she's done particularly well. I think I really like listening to her on the radio and listening to at the games. You know, she's progressed so much. It's great to see somebody like that who we've had on the show, but she's not the first person that's left us and come to the heady heights.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, she wasn't really a badge kisser, Ruffy.
Not at all, no.
No, just thought I'd mention that. Anyway, with regards to women's football, just before we talk about the Champions League, Ruffy, Glasgow City, Rangers, Celtic, Sunday. It's a big battle. It's really... Rangers are hosting Glasgow City at Ibrox. Glasgow City are 2 points clear of Rangers and Celtic. So I think Glasgow City, if they win against Rangers, win the title, okay? And the difference at the moment is Celtic are equal in points with Rangers, but 1 goal behind in goal difference, and they're facing Hearts at the same time at Celtic Park now on Sunday. So, I mean, it's absolutely all to play for. Rangers, current title holders. Glasgow City want to try and get back to winning the title, but it could be one of those, it is a helicopter's changing direction moment, isn't it?
Right, well, I'll put my neck on the line here and say that Celtic will beat Hearts.
I'm going to put my neck on the line and say Rangers will retain the title. What do you make of that?
Well, it'd be obviously Glasgow City have been the front runners of women's football for a long time.
Yeah.
They're top of the league now, so I don't know if they have the same resources as Rangers and Celtic. So
well, they must do because they're up there at the top of the league. Yeah.
I mean financial resources. I mean, I don't know what the women are on, but they're full time, Rangers and Celtic. You know, I don't know if Glasgow City are full time. Somebody could maybe correct me on that. I'm still a wee bit irked. Queen's Glasgow City sitting top of the league, not one player nominated for the Women's Player of the Year.
Yeah, well, listen,
which is a strange one.
No, it's not. It's the players vote for it. So, William Smith says, and this is the only thing that I've got in common with Paul Sturrock. He says, Peter, you've got that Paul Sturrock look with the socks. Yeah, but I have to say, he's one of my favourite players when I was growing up as a kid. Yeah. If you were talking about brilliant players that you could think of when I was growing up, Ruffy, and I thought of great players that I never thought I would get to know, and some of them, you know, I was lucky enough to become pals with them. Sturrock, for me, was one of my favourite players at Dundee United. Strachan at Aberdeen, Cooper at Rangers, absolutely magnificent, and Celtic, Tam Burns. Danny McGrain, well, it was Danny McGrain all day long, but to become friends with Tam was absolutely sensational. But my two heroes when I was growing up was Dalglish and McGrain, but Sturrock and Strachan were just two of my favourites.
Yeah, well, Luggy, as his nickname was, had rubber legs, you know, and Jim McLean always said if the tackling from behind had been banned, he'd been a superstar.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Because he's back to goal, he could turn you either way, and you know, could make you look stupid. But for some reason, the sort of a centre half then or defenders then thought they could go right through you and get away with it, and unfortunately for him, he suffered with that.
Absolutely, he was a brilliant player. He could hold the ball in. His first touch was immaculate. Tonight, I hope we get a better game than we got last night, Ruffy. Inter Milan got the crucial goal, 1-0, 3-0 on aggregate. They were a better team than AC Milan, but I cannot see them winning the Champions League. I think whoever wins tonight will have one hand on the trophy in my mind. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I watched the game last night, you know. I think AC Milan had no shots on target in the second half of that game. I thought even the goalkeeper was a wee bit at fault, you know, but fair dues to him. I thought the atmosphere in the stadium was absolutely unbelievable. You know, it was fantastic. I don't know, I really hope whatever team wins tonight, when they come up against them, I hope Milan don't spoil it and make it a good final.
Yeah.
I hope they don't do the usual
negative
Italian sort of sit in, trying to be hard to beat, hard to break it down.
It's not like that anymore. Napoli are a joy to watch.
But I think the two Milan teams are a wee bit like that.
Yeah.
I think they're a wee bit defensively. So
I don't think it matters with Real Madrid or Man City. I think they're just brilliant to watch.
You have to score. The longer the game goes and they don't score, they'll think, well, we'll just nick something here, and sometimes they can spoil it as a spectacle.
Okay,
so
it's 1-1 City and Real Madrid, and I think at the Etihad all the City fans will be dreaming of making the final once again, and this time going one step further. Pep Guardiola knows what's at stake.
We are not stupid to know how important is tomorrow game. Is maybe one of the most important games since we are together here. We cannot deny that for the competition, for the rival, for many things. But I said to the players, so leave it like a huge opportunity. Enjoy the moment. How fortunate we are. We are incredibly lucky to be here.
Well, luck is one part of it at times, but they're not incredibly lucky. They've played some wonderful football, and they've got that man there, Haaland.
Joy to watch. You know, De Bruyne and him, you know, if De Bruyne plays to the top form that we all know he can, and we've seen it when it comes to the big games, you know, even the Belgium games and these games, the big players stand out, and if he starts supplying Haaland with the service that he can get, there's only one winner for me. I know Real Madrid have got all the quality players in there and individuals that can win the game. For me, I just think it's Man City's this year.
Yeah, you think they've got their...
Yeah, I think they have. I think, I know it sounds stupid to say this, but Real Madrid defence can be got at.
I think their best chance, you know, I thought they were a shoe-in to win it against Chelsea in 2021, but Kai Havertz had other ideas for Chelsea.
Yeah, but I think this year, you know, the difference is Man City have now got a goalkeeper who can play these big games, you know, and I think goalkeepers, when you get to this stage, are a big part, as well as the strikers are, to win you through to finals. And I think he will be called on to do something special tonight, but I just think with Haaland there, you know, I think he put the fear of death into anybody on form, but he's got to get the service, and obviously Man City have got other players as well, but I think he's going to be the main man tonight.
Okay, it's an interesting one, because obviously you've got a man at the other end I'm going to ask you a question about, but Carlo Ancelotti is in charge of Real Madrid once again, and I think even he's finding it difficult to call which way the second leg is going to go.
I think the match is unpredictable. Also, if you are thinking that you are the best team in the world, it doesn't give to you the 100% sure that you are going to move, because as I said, it's not only a problem of quality, this kind of game. When you reach a semi-final, it's also a problem of personality, character, that you are able, mentality that you are able to show on the pitch.
Okay, I'm going to make a statement here, Ruffy, and you can contest it with me or not, but for me, he is one of the greatest managers of all time.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
But any club he goes to, the higher level, particularly European football, where that's where you get, you know, identified as being a top manager if you win trophies at that level, and he's done it. He
was in one of the greatest European teams of all time. I mean, I think for me, AC Milan and Ajax, Bayern Munich, and then Barcelona are what I would call the super teams, who created a dynasty at the time, and he was part of that great AC Milan side when he won it as a player. But as a manager, you know, I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. I mean, AC Milan, he's won the Champions League with them twice, and then he's gone on and done a similar thing with Real Madrid.
Yeah, as I said, you know, he's the godfather of the managers. I mean, we all talk about Sir Alex Ferguson, we talk about, you know, Jock Stein, and he's, I have to say, he's head and shoulders, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, in European football.
Yeah.
You know, that record CV that you've just read out there is just
incredible.
You can't pass it. You can't.
Okay, here's the answer to the quiz. The question itself was fairly straightforward. When was the last time Pep Guardiola celebrated a Champions League final win?
Was it when he was a player?
No, it was a manager. He was the manager of Barcelona when they defeated Man United at Wembley. Season 2010-2011. It's been a long time waiting to try and get success. He couldn't do it at Bayern Munich.
No.
And he's trying it now here at Man City for a long time, and I think tonight, Ruffy, is where I'm going to ask you, what's your prediction on this one?
I think it's going to be something special. It's going to win it. I think it deserves to be something special in the semi-final, and I think it will be gobsmacking, and I think it's going to be Haaland, and I think it's going to be 2-1 to Man City.
Yeah. Okay, should I play the devil's advocate then?
No, because you really fancy Real Madrid.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I'll go 2-1 Madrid with Vinicius Junior popping up with a spoiler. Is that fair?
I wouldn't disagree with that. He's definitely going to be the next superstar.
Okay, don't forget, if you get a chance, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and you'll get all the notifications of our unique video content. We're absolutely delighted that you could join us on a regular basis. There's not many channels giving you 7 days a week covering Scottish football, and as you know yourself, and Ruffy and I say it on a regular basis, terrestrial television is dead as far as the modern generation are concerned. People want their football fix regularly, they want it digitally, and we're certainly tearing it up here and getting bigger and better, and we hope you join the football family with us. There's lots more content, the managers and players are speaking to us, and there's some fabulous content ahead over the summer to keep you entertained. So tell your friends, share, like, and across our social media you'll get all the breaking football news and reaction from managers and players as well. I can't say any more than that. And the one key element of it all that you'll get an opinion. We try to be as balanced as we possibly can, and of course if you want something which is based heavily in propaganda, then we always say to you, we're fair, please go to club football, the club channels, and of course some of the fanzines, because that's where you get everything's rosy in the garden, Ruffy, and there's nothing to see here. Is that fair?
No, I would say that, if you listen to some of these programmes, after a defeat or anything, you don't really get an opinion.
Yeah. I like this one as I leave you now. Martin Torrance says, my boys away down to Man City to watch Man City Real with the school. I mean, come on. I thought, by the way, I'm glad you said fantastic. I thought you were going to say fun. I didn't get that when I was at school, Ruffy. Can you imagine them saying to us, right, we're going down to see Man City Real when you were at school?
No, the only thing I got was a school trip to Saltcoats.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Martin, I hope he has a great time. It's certainly a game I'd love to be at. Real Madrid, I've seen them this season already, and I just get a sneaky feeling I might be wrong. From Ruffy and myself, thanks for watching.